All right, we are back with another pick'em video. Going to be going over my favorite plays for the NBA today. We got a lot of value on the board because there's 14 games today. So we'll be talking about a few lines that I'm really liking, and then a couple lines that have been bumped already. Was going over some late night value in the Discord last night. So some of those lines that I was really loving, obviously they're going to get bumped, but definitely some plays that are still out there that haven't been bumped yet. So also, guys, do not forget it is Flex Friday. You have to go into the promotions tab on Prize Picks. Go ahead and click opt in, or else it's not going to show up. It's going to be a $20 free play. There's no reason not to do this. Just want to remind you guys, you have to click opt in. Before we get into things, I always want to say, subscribe to the page if you are new. We rip out daily content like this every single day. So if you're interested in this stuff, leave the video a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Can be anything. Just lets more people see the video if you do so. Also, there's going to be links in my description for any of the tools I'm using. You can go ahead and check those out. All of them are going to have free trials. And then if you're interested in getting into Underdog, Sleeper, Chalkboard, any of those other DFS platforms, go ahead and hit my link in the description. You'll get a 100% deposit match for $100 on Underdog and Chalkboard. And then for Sleeper, they're doing $500 right now. So definitely check those out. It's a good day to get in because there's a lot of value on the board. And again, it's nice to line shop because some of these lines are on Underdog that aren't on Prize Picks. Some of these lines are a lot of lines you can find on Sleeper or Chalkboard that you won't find on Prize Picks just because they're better chances to hit. But yeah, definitely hit those links in the description. Helps me out a lot. But let's get into the picks from last video. Again, it was just a 2-game slate. And this Spurs-Bucks game was the one that was kind of looking like it could be a potential blowout from looking before the game happened. Just because the Bucks were coming off a frustrating loss again to the Pacers, and you thought maybe they could be a great bounce back spot. They ended up getting the win, but oh my God, what a good game! Wembanyama versus Giannis, I would watch that any day of the week. They were going back and forth. Wembanyama had a great game. We went to his first half points just because of the blowout potential and his minutes limit. Ended up not getting there in the first half, but ended up crushing his points line. Came like 26, 27 or something like that on the day. So, it was enjoyable to watch. Frustrating that, in hindsight, you didn't go for the full game rather than just the first half. And then Devin Vassell, this was the line that popped up while we were doing the video. And to get that 5th pick in there, we kind of threw him in. And it looked really solid. And again, they kept it close. So if it was a blowout, kind of like it was supposed to, or what it looked like it was going to be, this line, could have gone under, but hats off to him as well, just for going over. And then Kuminga, our NHL play, and Jamal Murray all hit for us. It was a sweaty kind of end of the game for Jamal Murray. What a crazy ending for that Denver Warriors game. Jokic with the absolute heave, but also just the comeback in general. Just a really, honestly, 2 great games on the 2-game slate. So hopefully we get some good games today. I do want to say I ran this out a few different ways. So didn't have that Vassell line originally. Again, we kind of said we did it on the fly. And then some correlated NHL has been really fun. So I might try to do some videos on that. The only thing with those is goalie saves lines typically come out later from what I can tell. So let me know if you want some NHL plays. It's nice to do, like if you're doing more on a goalie saves for one team, whoever the opposing team is, you want to be going for, overs. And I don't just pick randomly. I go in and try to find like what goalies potentially going to have a lot of saves or not a lot of saves and kind of attack it that way. So definitely a solid day on that. And but yeah, let's jump into the board here, get these videos out. Again, this was a little bit later in the day than typical. I went to go record, and of course my laptop had like a huge update, wouldn't let my microphone plug into my computer, but whatever, that stuff happens. But let's just get into it. I'm going to be talking 2 guys from the Celtics to start us off. It's the Celtics versus the Jazz, so another game with some blowout potential. But I'm going to go to Jaylen Brown. Actually got to go over to first quarter over here because we're going to be running his first quarter points. Jaylen Brown is at 5.5 points. Going to go over here, and particularly because he's coming off a bad game. So let's go over to Outlier, kind of check out what he's been doing so far this year in this spot. And we'll see Jaylen Brown. Again, we're going to his first quarter points, and he's been crushing this. That's not first quarter points. That's first quarter assists. He's been crushing that too. But first quarter points, 5.5. He's gone over in 7 to 10 games, and I can see last game he had 0. So I kind of been tracking Jaylen Brown, or did it at least today, on games that he's been killing this line. 68% hit rate on the year. He's usually the guy in the first quarter that scores a whole bunch. So I like this spot for him, especially because he missed last time. Looks like when he misses, he typically comes back with a bang, like he missed against Boston here. These were the beginning of the year, but missed, had 5 points against Miami, not Boston. Ends up going to get 16 in the first quarter against Washington. Missed here, had 12 the next game. Another back-to-back here, but missed here against Memphis. Gets 8, and usually bounce backs from these spots that he misses. And again, he kind of had a particularly bad game overall. So I think they're going to want to get him going, especially early. And the matchup looks pretty good. Points allowed for Utah is 23rd ranked. And again, with some blowout potential here, it's good to get his prop in early. Let's go to Fantasy Optimizer on Odds Jam. Again, guys, these are free trials on all of these tools. Outlier, absolutely awesome tool. I'm sure you've seen it around. If you're on the fence about doing it, 7-day free trial hitting my link. Might as well do it. No harm, no foul. If you don't like it, it's free 7 days to try it out. But I think you will. Again, it's very visual. You see a lot of these YouTubers using it. It's because it works. It's not just because we want to show it off. It's definitely because it works. And then Odds Jam, this is attacking strictly odds-based value. You can line chop, see where lines are different and where you can attack some value. Let's go to Jaylen Brown and his first quarter points here, popping up at a 52.48% chance to hit. Not a whole lot of books have this, but the lines that do, or the books that do, around minus 135, minus 120, minus 129. So at minus 119 value on PrizePicks, we're definitely getting a pretty solid spot for him here. So yeah, liking Jaylen Brown here. The other guy that I really like in this matchup is going to be Derek White. Not in the first quarter points, but just honestly at the game as a whole. I loved his 19.5 points and rebounds line. I believe this got bumped to 20. Yeah, it's right here at 20. I'll throw it in here as kind of a spot for us. But again, 19 and a half, if you were in the Discord, you got that for there. But I think he's going to have a great game. He's been absolutely killing it, obviously. He really is trying to make an all-star push here with about a month left until the all-star game. I think that's very true. He's never been an all-star. The Celtics would love to have 3 all-stars in the game, and he's been crushing it. You could also honestly look at his fantasy score. He's a guy that blocks shots like crazy. He's definitely the best blocking guard in the NBA, and racks up a whole bunch of them. And the Utah Jazz give up a whole bunch of steals and blocks. So let's just kind of jump into Derek White's page. I don't want to go over it too much, just because it's kind of tough to take Jaylen Brown's points in the first quarter, even though it's not that much, and then go ahead and take a Derek White line. But I don't honestly mind. I honestly don't mind it. You could look at his 16 and a half points as well. Again, 90% of the last 10, 100% in the last 5. But let's just go to his PRA, just because that's the kind of closest thing we can get. 70% of the last 10 games, again, getting the minutes. Also, Joe Mazzulla is kind of a guy that runs his guys, even if it is kind of a blowout. He likes to get them, as much time as possible. And again, this will be, if it's a 20, 25 point game in the fourth quarter, they'll probably be out of there. But if it's 16, 17, Joe Mazzulla usually keeps them in. So I think it's a great spot for Derek White as a whole, again, as he makes this push to be an all-star. But in 2023, you can see he's been absolutely crazy recently, especially, and he's really been picking it up. So like this spot, you can see the matchups here for points, rebounds, assists against Utah. A whole bunch of green, particularly to guards. It's not like amazing, but definitely a solid spot for him. And then blocks and steals, we'll see 27th and 28th in terms of that stuff as well. Look at all this green for Derek White too. So I don't mind his fantasy score, his points, rebounds. We'll just throw one of these in for a placeholder, but I think he just has a really good game for us. And one last little data marker checkpoint we can go over is RotoWire, another one of my sponsors, guys. Free trial, 2 days if you want to check this out. I believe this app that I'm using right now on RotoWire is completely free right now, as it's kind of in beta. So again, just hit my link, just let them know that I sent you there. And then it's really just RotoWire/picks or whatever. And you can go to any of the platforms you have, PrizePicks, Underdog, Sleeper, and it gives predictions, sportsbooks, other pick'em sites where they have it, and then the RotoWire projection model plus the hit rate. So a whole bunch of different information over here as well. We can go ahead and go to the NBA tab just so it's a little bit easier. Go find Derek White. And we're seeing a few of his lines popping up. Again, that 20.0 points and rebounds line is still looking like a really solid one. We saw his hit rate's been really good. His RotoWire projections looking real nice as well. Let's just look up Derek White because there's a bunch of Whites popping up, or at least Kobe White. There we go. Derek White, fantasy scores, also another one popping up there as well. So I think it's a good spot for him. And yeah, I think he's going to have a great game. But let's move along here. Going to be going to our next guy. It's going to be Saddiq Bay. So Saddiq Bay, I think when I was looking at this game and just thinking about it logically, like I tend to do when I'm going to make bets, he wasn't the guy that was popping off the board in terms of the like projections and odds and everything like that. But he's the guy that I think is going to have a great game today. Him and Jaylen Johnson are two of the guys that I think could have a really good game. Honestly, anyone on this Hawks team against the Pacers could be huge today. And that's because there's an absolutely huge 262.0 points total projection right now. So absolutely crazy. Should be a whole bunch of offense. The last time these two teams met, it was like 152 to 157. So insane amount of scoring happening in this one. And Saddiq Bey has been absolutely killing it to, last week, month, whatever you want to say, as well as Jaylen Johnson. Clint Capela has been very consistent, and then Trey and DeJounte have also been very solid. So their 14-19 record, again, they're kind of mediocre in terms of their team. But when you look at the individual players, they got a whole bunch of solid guys. But let's go to Saddiq Bey. We're going to go to his fantasy score. Again, I think you could attack this guy a few different ways. We'll go over to RotoWire just because they have the fantasy score app. But then we'll look at his PRA and what he's been doing so far, especially recently. But let's go to Saddiq Bey. And we're seeing that fantasy score popping up, a whole lot of blue, which is good. The hit rate's incredible, 85% hit rate. This is weighted. So the last games or the most recent games have a more heavier weight. 100% of the last 5, 80% of his last 10, 80% of his last 20. And versus opponents, 86%. I think it's in his entire career. And I know he got it last time against Indiana. So definitely a solid spot for him. He's been crushing this line. And when you want to look at positional stuff that we'll go in and look at outlier, to the small forward position, which Saddiq Bey will start and plays most of his minutes at, they are kind of a poor defense. So let's look at Bey. Go to his PRA again, just because they don't have, they're working on it. They don't have fantasy score just yet, but outlier and odds jam will both have that eventually. But let's go to 21.5 PRA. I think this is something you could attack as well. Again, another guy that's kind of been seeing an increase in minutes, and that has been correlating and translating to hitting his lines a lot more. Again, when you look at Indiana, whole bunch of points allowed, rebounds and assists are in the red. Let's go to that small forward spot, and we see a whole bunch of green. So another data point to look at and like. And then when we look at this game, the biggest thing is that DeAndre Hunter has been out. It's kind of opened the door for Saddiq Bey to really blossom here. So if you go to games without DeAndre Hunter, who's going to miss again tonight, he's gone over this in 7 of 9 games. So honestly, I don't mind the PRA, points, rebounds, assists for Saddiq Bey either at 21.5. Yeah, he's been crushing this line pretty consistently, but his hit rate on his fantasy score line and the fact that I can't look at it on here just yet makes me want to just kind of shift to the fantasy score line, but I think you could go either way. And in terms of the head-to-head, they have played each other once. This was last year. Let's go without DeAndre Hunter. With DeAndre Hunter, he still went over this line against these guys last time. So I think it's a good spot for Saddiq Bey. And that will be kind of our third play. Derek White, again, kind of had to shift from one of his spots, but I think he's just going to have a good day overall. Let's move along to his teammate, Clint Capela. This is another one that you can kind of put in maybe in a different slip. I don't like to run these if if I'm taking a PRA of one guy and a PR of another guy, it's kind of taken away from each other. But Clint Capela, this was the first one I saw. Again, he's been very consistent on the year. I'll show you very quickly his RotoWire projection and all that. I know the sports books are liking it as well. See his 22.5. You see the sports books are bumped up. A lot of these, or some of these guys already have it at 23.5. And then the RotoWire projections at 24.71. Hit rate's been excellent as well. Because this is a line that we can see on OddsJam, let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. Clint Capela, go ahead and apply that. And you can see this little indicator means that I've already taken it. But 52.35% chance to hit, 23.5 already on FanDuel, and then everyone else is around minus 125. So we're definitely getting a little bit of value on our PrizePicks fixed odds. The only thing I will say on this one about Clint Capela is that when they played each other last time, he got into foul trouble pretty quickly and only ended up playing 18 minutes. So that's just something to think about. Again, this was very foul trouble based. Only played 18 minutes, had 4 fouls. So I think if he gets his normal run, he still had 20 points and assists, or not points and assists. Let's go to points and rebounds. That's the line we're looking at. Points and rebounds. He still had 19 points and rebounds, so he almost got there anyway. But if he gets his normal minutes, I think he should crush this line. But again, if you don't want to take these guys in the same slip, I understand that, and I think it's a Hawks kind of day. I've run out Jalen Johnson in a few slips, Dejounte Murray, Derek or Trey Young, Trey Jones. I almost said Trey Young, and a bunch of lines. So I think it's a Hawks smash spot today. But let's move along. Again, there's two guys from the same team on each one. But let's get our final pick in here. It's going to be James Harden. It's going to be his 2.5 3-pointers made. Again, I think Harden could have a great game, kind of like all of these guys. Maybe slower starts to the beginning of the season, especially for Harden, Saddiq, and Derek White. But Harden really coming into his own on this team, and the Clippers they're clicking. But let's go to Harden. Can I check out this line for him and see what he's been doing so far, especially recently? Let's go to his 3-pointers made. I don't know what quintuple single is. That's kind of funny. What is this? All right, we don't have time for that. We'll look at it a different time. I don't know what quintuple single is. But let's go to 3-pointers made. 60% of the last 10 games. He's been very consistently getting at least 2 as well. So Pelicans giving up a 16th ranked in terms of 3-pointers allowed, 13 on the year. For point guards and shooting guards, it's a little bit better, kind of bottom third of the league. 3 and 4.5 respectively. But again, odds are really, really liking this one. In 2023, you'll see this. Again, these are all in the Clippers. He's had at least 2 in a ton of these games. But very recently, he's been, very starting to much better in terms of like playing alongside his teammates. They have to take time to gel together. And they've definitely been doing that. So I think it's a good spot for him. In terms of the head-to-head, I don't think they've played, they did play each other back on the 24th. So again, if you're someone doesn't like to see this data point, I know I don't like to, I don't love to, but when everything else is pointing towards the over, I'm going to go ahead and take it. But he had one back in the 24th of November. Again, that was kind of a time where he was learning how to play with these guys. You can see his PRA was probably trending upwards as well. Yeah, so he wasn't his PRA, trying to get in the rhythm with these guys. What was that, the 24th he played this game? So he had 23 PRA, and it's just trending upwards. I think he's going to have a great game today. So yeah, that's our 5th pick. I always like to get at least 5 plays in for you guys. I know some YouTubers only give out 2 picks, sometimes 3 picks, and they're going to be hitting those lines more consistently or hitting their YouTube picks more consistently. But it's all about in the long run. I like the value on 5 and 6 man plays, and that's what we rock with. So going over really quick. I know I just kind of scroll through these pretty quickly, but Jaylen Brown 5.5 first quarter points. Derek White over 34.5 fantasy score. If his somehow, it's not going to, but let's say his points and rebounds line drops back down to 19.5. I really, really like that spot for him as well. Saddiq Bay over his fantasy score. Hit rate's incredible against Indiana. Great matchup. Clint Capela, 22.5 PR over. Again, maybe don't run these guys in the same slip. I just don't like the correlation. But you can definitely run them in individual ones, or you could run them in the same one. I think they potentially could definitely hit it both in the same one. And then James Harden, 2.5 3-pointers made. I really like that spot for him as well. So again, sorry this one is a little bit later. But yeah, excited for a 14-game slate. Hopefully it lives up to the hype of last night because we had 2 great ones. But yeah, let's continue to start, keep making this money, keep hitting these lines. Again, if I give you guys 5 lines and I go 3 for 5, and someone's like, oh, you never hit these 5-man slips or whatever. I'm just giving you guys the picks that I like. You can go ahead and pick and choose, mix and match them with whatever you like. And I just like to give you guys as many, good value plays as I can. But yeah, that will do it. Again, like the video, subscribe if you are new, and let's make some money tonight. Peace out.